This is Plant-Based Briefing, Why the Heir to the Baskin-Robbins Ice Cream Empire Walked Away From It All, by Tanya Flink at VegNews.com. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. Today's article is a tribute to John Robbins, who passed away at age 77 on June 11th, 2025. He was a legend in the vegan movement, and you'll hear about his story in today's article. This article was written back in 2024, and it's fascinating to hear his story. And I thought it was fitting since he did just pass. He passed away from complications due to post-polio syndrome, or PPS. He had contracted polio as a child and survived, but a majority of polio survivors succumb to PPS, where limb paralysis and breathing difficulty symptoms of polio return, usually 15 to 30 years after the onset. In John Robbins' case, it returned 65 years after he contracted the disease. And as Silas Rao said in a recent blog post about John's passing, the delay was most likely due to his healthy lifestyle. So let's hear a bit about John Robbins, and let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Why the Heir to the Baskin-Robbins Ice Cream Empire Walked Away From It All, by Tanya Flink at VegNews.com. The son of the ice cream behemoth chose veganism over inventing the 30-second flavor. In this VegNews exclusive, John Robbins reveals what it's like to walk away from an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool. Life could have been sweet for John Robbins. The only son of Irv Robbins, co-founder of Baskin-Robbins, he was next in line to assume the family legacy and reign over what is now the world's largest chain of specialty ice cream shops. But the more he learned, the more uncomfortable he became with the environmental, health, and ethical implications of dairy. So despite the familial and financial repercussions, Robbins ultimately decided not to pick up the proverbial ice cream scoop. Baskin-Robbins has plenty of vegan options now, including sorbet and non-dairy coconut milk ice cream. And in 2021, the company became the first major chain to serve vegan oat milk ice cream, which lasted for a limited time. But back in the 1970s, after Robbins graduated from university, dairy was the norm in the ice cream game. In 2019, we caught up with the heir to the soft-serve throne to get the backstory of the ice cream legacy that could have been, and you can find his story below. Why John Robbins turned down a career with Baskin-Robbins. On paper, Robbins had a dream childhood. Thanks to the extremely lucrative family business, he literally grew up in a house with an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool and had access to a seriously excessive amount of ice cream. From the outside looking in, there was no doubt Robbins had it good. Most people would think that inventing flavors and eating ice cream would be a fantasy come true for a child and young adult, he told VegNews, and there was a lot that I enjoyed. But in the end, he found he couldn't ignore the health implications of ice cream. Today, some research suggests that dairy consumption might be linked with skin issues like acne and even a higher risk of some forms of cancer for some people. It wasn't just about health for Robbins. He couldn't ignore the animal welfare issues associated with dairy either. Again, today research suggests that more than 99% of animal products on the shelves come from animals that were raised in industrialized, cramped factory farm conditions. The more I learned about the health implications of ice cream, and the more I learned about how the cows were treated, the less enjoyment I took, and the more concerned I felt, he said. I felt torn. He recalls how one part of him was eager to please his father, take over the company, and enjoy the lucrative, solid career that would have offered him. But on the other hand, he says, I felt called to contribute, to be of service. Leaving behind the family business. Robbins' calling, as it turns out, was from the wild. He packed up, met his wife, and together they built a one-room cabin on a small island off the Canadian coast, where they grew their own food and lived off $500 a year. During this time, they had a son and named him Ocean. Talk about a hard pivot. I remember telling my father, look, Dad, we live in a different world now than the one in which you grew up, he recalls. The environment is degrading badly under the impact of human activities. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is increasing, and the sense of common purpose and shared community is deteriorating. We live under a nuclear shadow, and at any moment the unspeakable could happen. Do you see that for me, feeling these things today as deeply as I do, inventing a 30-second flavor just wouldn't be an adequate response for my life? He continued. His father was less than thrilled. After all, Robbins had a knack for the ice cream business. He even invented one of the company's most iconic flavors, Jamocha Almond Fudge. In the end, Robbins ended up being ostracized from the family, and the Baskin-Robbins ice cream empire was sold. Moving forward with no regrets. Robbins regrets nothing. He explained, "My wife Dio and I have been married now for 52 years, and we've been eating plant-based the whole time. Those are two decisions, marrying her and eating a whole foods, plant-strong diet, that I've never regretted for a single moment." After years of living this plant-based, meditation-focused, off-the-grid lifestyle, Robbins published his first bestseller, Diet for a New America, in 1987. The seminal piece of work outlines the ethical, environmental, and health implications of animal agriculture, and dairy-based ice cream is a part of this global problem. Despite the book's direct criticism of the dairy industry, the very same industry that supported his father's business, it ironically might have saved Robbins Sr. in the long run. After knocking at death's door, as Robbins put it, his father read the book and immediately changed his diet. Robbins Sr. ended up living 20 more healthy years. Plant-based eating has become an unstoppable force. Everyone in the food world is taking notice, and that is very, very good news for all the life on this beautiful planet. The future of vegan ice cream. While Robbins still adheres to his whole foods plant-based diet and has published several other bestsellers surrounding the topic, he does admit to enjoying the occasional vegan ice cream. His favorite, he claims, is anything that comes close to his signature Jamocha almond fudge. When asked about his estranged company's decision to finally implement vegan options, Robbins said he believes the move was likely motivated more by profit than by compassion. "I can tell you that the company didn't make this move because they suddenly decided to be at the forefront of healthful and compassionate eating," he noted. "They did it because they saw the handwriting on the wall." The handwriting in question might be the market predictions for the non-dairy industry. By 2028, research suggests the global dairy alternatives market could hit $43.6 billion. But dairy, on the other hand, is on the decline. In fact, between 1997 and 2017, half of the dairy farms in the U.S. closed down. Now there are less than 28,000 licensed dairy herds in the country. Plant-based food is the future, Robbins continued. Baskin-Robbins added vegan options because they want to stay in business and keep making money, and they see that sales of plant-based foods are skyrocketing. Robbins currently manages the Food Revolution network with his son Ocean. The program helps others transition to a plant-based lifestyle to support their health and the health of the planet. You just listened to Why the Heir to the Baskin-Robbins Ice Cream Empire Walked Away from It All by Tanya Flink at VegNews.com, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. Food Revolution Network has a great video tribute about John Robbins' life, and it's amazing. He walked away from $1 billion inheritance from so much, and he has done so much. Here are some excerpts from another VegNews article about John's death. He was best known for Diet for a New America, the 1987 bestseller that examined the connections between food, health, the environment, and ethics. He founded Earth Save International in 1988, a nonprofit aimed at promoting plant-based eating as a solution to global food and ecological crises. He had the PBS documentary Diet for a New America, Your Health, Your Planet in 1991, which featured appearances from then rising voices in the plant-based medical community, including T. Colin Campbell and John McDougall. And then additional books included The Food Revolution in 2001, tackling issues of factory farming, GMOs, and food labeling. Healthy at 100 in 2006, exploring longevity in cultures with largely plant-based diets. The New Good Life, a personal reflection on financial ethics in the aftermath of the 2008 economic collapse. No Happy Cows, a collection of essays on factory farming and food marketing. And Voices of the Food Revolution, which compiled interviews with leaders in the plant-based and environmental health space. And then in 2012, he founded Food Revolution Network with his son Ocean, which is an amazing organization, and I'm pleased to have permission to read from their content as well. They offer summits, online courses, so much information and resources to help people live a plant-based lifestyle. Check out foodrevolution.org for more information about John Robbins, the tribute video, and just the great resources that are offered there. And please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.